Migration is not an individual singular process and requires a long-term strategy in order to accomplish any sort of intervention.
Border management, border guards have a human face. They are human beings first of all, and not only have this conception that they are only law enforcement and here to make things difficult for people, scare them, etc. It is not the case at all.
It's striking the balance between security and law enforcement on the one hand side and facilitating, making it easy for all the positive things that come across borders on the other hand.
Border management is often associated only to repressive forms of border checks, while the objective of each state is to reach the right balance between facilitation and control of the borders. This because each state shall guarantee that all forms of good migrations have free access to the countries, and at the same time each country should respond effectively to all forms of transnational crimes. The target group is the project managers and project developers of the Africa and Middle East region. For all staff involved in project development and project management for all IBM initiatives in the region. IOM Rome and IOM Washington were also invited given their strategic role in this programming.
The perspective of this training in the last 4 days in Lebanon deepened my knowledge and understanding of migration governance, migration management, border management, and also helped me understand the people that I work with, their positions, their views, and ways in which I can support them to promote IOM mission and the priorities that we as organizations set to counter smuggling, trafficking, organized crime, and to help this region to come up with sustainable migration policies.
Of course, by seeing borders more as bridges as opposed to barriers, it's in the interest again of the sending countries, the receiving countries, and the migrants. And I think it's also important that countries try to look at facilitating, of course, movement as opposed to blocking movement.
The main training objective would be to build a solid foundation for officers, and building a solid foundation involves, firstly, understanding your national legislation, secondly, understanding bilateral agreements or maybe agreements that might be under regional economic communities.
I believe that one of the achievements of this training is to provide the right terminology to IOM staff in the country office to develop effective and professional projects for IOM.
In terms of actual capacity, the African Capacity Building Center is a dedicated training center for border management matters. And these models, these curriculums and training materials that we're currently using could easily be replicated in the Middle East. IOM is quite good in designing these documents to be either very tailor-made to your country's specific needs or to be generic enough to be applied to states on request and also depending on the situation. We're currently busy with a number of initiatives and the development of a number of guidance notes that would guide officers and also guide project officers and country officers in terms of determining their strategy for border management in the MENA region.
What could be possibly entry doors for us in Morocco to work with the government? Because so far that was not possible. Only in recent years now we had for the first time police and border guards participating for the first time at one training on counter-trafficking issues. So for me it was to see how other colleagues actually succeeded in getting the first foot into the door to be able then to develop other projects in this area in the future.
التعاون بين الدولة اللبنانية وقوى الأمن بالذات مع IOM تعاون كتير مهم وتعاون لحد هلا بين انه كتير ناجح. فالIOM عم بتنسق مع قوى الامن الداخلي في موضوع اللاجئين، عم بتنسق مع قوى الامن الداخلي في موضوع كيفية ضبط الحدود، وعم في هلا عدة دراسات عم بتصير بيننا وبينهم لحتى نشوف شو احتياجات قوى الأمن الداخلي في موضوع الحدود، وشو المتطلبات لحتى تشوف الاي او ام اذا بتقدر تلبي او تستجيب لبعض هالمطالب.
This training it's for IOM colleagues in MENA region, but also upon the request of government of Lebanon, General Security Department, we conducted a rapid assessment for Al-Masna border crossing point with Syria, and Al-Aboudi border crossing point, and Beirut International Airport. Based on our assessment and the request and the needs of the government, we developed a training program. We call it TOT, Training of Trainers and Document Examination, as urgent training request from the government for IOM to deliver this training.
I mean, this training also helps, of course, the staff of IOM to understand how to approach governments, how to work with governments at different levels.
Through IBM programs, IBM ensures that requesting countries receive needed support to enhance their capacities to manage borders and migration. This by developing capacity building programs and also providing modern technology to facilitate access to regular migrations.
What changed for me is really the understanding that there is not one border situation. There are really many different situations, and each situation needs to be addressed differently.
One of the things I found very interesting during the training was actually the link between border management and development, which was a connection I never really made before. The first day it was mentioned how, of course, many different aspects of the economy, industries, tourism, export, import, they all depend on basically having efficient and functional borders, which is, of course, the main objective of integrated or immigration border management.
The new terminology that I have learned in the course of this training is mainly related to the technical and technology solutions to border management practices. I have learned a lot about MIDAS and border management immigration systems, which I find very interesting and something I had very little knowledge about. And this is something that I find a unique knowledge that IOM has developed and definitely should work up and expanding on and distributing this knowledge in order to help governments to manage their migration and borders in a better fashion.
In one short sentence, border management is facilitation and control.
In one word, I can say border management is strategy. It is having an understanding that not any individual action is going to solve any issue on your border, but it is a group of actions that you would have to put together over a period of time that leads you into a certain environment that we could say you have a proper border management structure in place.
So for me, border management is facilitation of the entry and exit of migrants.
But rather than learn from the training, it's something we should keep in mind when doing border management, which is not only humanitarian border management when there is a crisis, but also in general making sure that border management is done in a humane way in the full respect of human rights.